The subsequent demonstration is intended to highlight the areas that are required to be checked in accordance with the recommendations laid down by VOSA. Please note that some areas have been emphasised and extended for filming purposes and as such are not representative of the actual time needed to complete a pre-service check.
So we're just going to show you how to check out the bus correctly, and we're going to start firstly at the near side and making sure that it does have a green operator's license. Once we've done that check, then we'll make our way towards the cab and we'll start building up the air pressure. Firstly, paying attention to the step and just making sure that there's no trip hazards as we're stepping onto the vehicle. As we do step onto the vehicle, maintaining a point of contact by holding the handrail, and we can just check and make sure that it's safe to get on. Once we get into the cab area, paying attention to the step and the area, because we're in a closed environment, then obviously there's hazards that we can bang into, such as cash trays, and we only being a little area, the steps is quite narrow. So just be careful as you're stepping in and just making sure there's no trip hazards. We're also looking down in the cab area, make sure there's no leaks and no items that can get behind the pedals whilst we're driving, and just making sure the area's just tidy. As I'm stepping into the cab area, I'll get myself into the driver's seat, and I'm going to get myself comfortable first, checking that it moves forward and back. That if need be, I can adjust this height setting by the controls that's here on my left hand side. I'm also wanting to sit so I can grab the top part of the steering wheel, so I've got good steering manoeuvrability, rear mirror, just to make sure that I can make sure that passengers are seated correctly before moving away. I also want to make sure that while I'm in cab area that I've got no obstructions in the cab area, and then we're ready for starting up the vehicle. I'm making sure my handbrake's on and my vehicle is in neutral before starting up the vehicle. I'm putting on the power and we'll get it fired up. It now gives me opportunity to see my gauges. We know that the alarms are working. We need to build up the air pressure. I can check to make sure that the interior lights are all switched on and are all illuminated. I can check my demisters are working, and they seem to be working okay. I'm looking at my upstairs camera, so the cameras are working. I can also see that my destination blind is illuminated, and we'll adjust that appropriate to routes that we're travelling on next. I want to check my brake pedals so I can reach the pedals correctly as well. And looking around in my cab area, just making sure that there's no items that can drop off onto the floor and into the cab area, making sure there's no lost property. And then now we'll go out and we'll do the saloon checks, and then we'll come back to the cab area after we've checked the rest of the vehicle. So we'll get the interior lights on and we'll make sure that everything's lit. So we'll now start looking down the saloon area. I can move my seat back to maximise the space I've got to get out. Watching any hazards as we're stepping out of the vehicle. And then as we start working our way down vehicle while it's building up air, we can check the bells, stanchions to make sure everything's secure and that there's nothing being left in luggage area. We'll also check the disabled area, making sure that their bells are working as well. obviously we're now looking into the area for wheelchair access. So the flip down seats are secure. So again, just making sure that these areas are signposted up for individuals, and making sure that all the emergency exits are signposted. Not just that, how they will be used in the case of an emergency. Again, just making sure that the seats are clean, they're secure, there's no graffiti on them, and they also the armrests on them as well are working correctly should they need them. As we're working our way further up, we're also checking that there's no dirt, no chewing gum, things like that on the seats, and that they're not ripped, torn and damaged in any way. Again, as we're working our way to the back of the vehicle, making sure that the security at seats are there. We wouldn't want to be putting his hands between the seats in case there's any needles or anything there that can harm you. Looking on this particular bus, making sure that there's nothing being left up on the top racks. When we come to the emergency door, on this one it's clearly displayed. We can actually check this one and make sure that the buzzer's working and the lights are working in the cab area, and that it closes and it's secure now. As we're working further down, again, as we've done on the opposite side, just checking all seats and trims, making sure that there's no trip hazards, no sharp objects that are sticking out that can endanger a passenger as they're getting on or off the vehicle, and likewise with any trims and traps that may be down on floor. Again, making sure that all emergency exits are clearly signposted, and also how we operate it in the case of an emergency, and that all those lights and trunking are secure. You can also make sure that the stopping sign works, it's displayed when bells have been rang. Right, so now we're going to be checking upstairs and just making sure that the banisters are secure as we're walking up the steps, and that there's no slip hazards, no trip hazards on the stairs that can endanger a pedestrian, one of your passengers. Again, as we get up to the top of the stairs, checking all bells and stanchions and making sure that the lights are illuminated, and as just like downstairs, checking all seats are secure, clean, not damaged. Now we've built up air pressure, we'll just check the doors. That way we know that they're secure. We also need to make sure that the buttons work from the inside as well as the outside. And then as I'm stepping off vehicle, just making sure that I maintain a point of contact so that I'm getting off the vehicle safe. Maintain a point of contact, keeping handrail on and bending your knees using proper lifting procedure by bending your knees to lower the ramp down, just making sure that it's operational and fit for service. Making sure we use the correct manual handling to get it back into place. So I'm stood at front of the vehicle now, looking at it from top to bottom. I'm making sure that the windscreens, the destination blind are clean, they're secure, they're not damaged in any way. There's no mascots or stickers that's obstructing the view. As we get to the headlights, we're making sure that all headlights are working, they're secure and they're not damaged. Likewise, we are with indicators as well. As we're also looking at the front of the vehicle, we're checking to make sure that there's no body damage that is sticking out, any fresh paintwork that's been damaged, making sure the number plate is in good condition and is clear to read, as well as the staff at the fleet number. As with the other side, making sure that the mirrors are clean, secure, not damaged. And looking outside at the vehicle, there's no significant body damage to the vehicle. If there was any fresh damage, then obviously it needs to be reported by putting it on a VCR card. We also, while we're walking around, listening for air leaks, and also looking for any types of fluid leaks, such as your coolant level, your oil, your fuel, any hydraulics, and just paying particular attention to your tyres as well, where we'll be looking for sufficient tread depth. We're also looking for any damage done to wallet tyre, any lumps, bumps or cord showing. Making sure it's correctly inflated, that your wheel nuts are secure, looking for any signs of any rust, but at least making sure that there is sufficient thread sticking over the top of the nut itself. Making sure that all marker lights are working and reflectors alongside the vehicle. Any panels or any caps, they're secured down. And when we come to the rear wheel, unlike the front wheel, we have what we call rick clips attached to your rear nuts. And these need to be interlocked, and if at any time they wasn't interlocked, then we will get an engineer to come and check it. We're also checking that the hub doesn't have any signs of a leak, and again with tyres we also checking that there's sufficient tread depth as well as pressure, but it can be more difficult to check the rear tyre. So what we're going to be doing with rear tyre is we can check when we get to the back to make sure that the inner tyre could be the one that's at problem, not just the outer one. We're also checking mud guards, and it's just literally a quick tap to make sure it's secure. Again, with emergency exits, just making sure that it's clearly marked out, how to operate it, and then it's just a gentle pull on it. Listening to make sure that the alarm and the buzzer's working, and then it shuts secure and it's not likely to come open. Again, with any securing panels, just making sure that they're locked. You can see that it's an emergency engine stop. On this particular one, we can make sure it stops, and then that way we know that the emergency engine stops working. There's a coolant level, just making sure the cap's secured down and that there is a visible cap that's secure. When we get to the rear of the vehicle, at this point we can be taking note that there's no obvious signs of the vehicle leaning, which determines that the vehicle is looking okay. If it were leaning, we need to determine whether it could be a flat tyre or whether there is a problem with a suspension system on it. But it's looking okay on this one. The number plate is in good condition and it's illuminated. We're checking the hazard warning lights, we're checking the tail lights are working, the reflectors are in good condition. Now at this point we need to check the brake lights, we need to check the reverse lights, and this is where I would need a colleague to help me assist with this by just me trying the light and my colleague to give me the thumbs up. I'm checking my brakes just to make sure, and my colleague there, he's just getting me thumbs up for brake lights. We'll check the fog lights, so just make sure that they're being extinguished, and reverse lights as well. And we can hear that the buzzer's working whilst that's on. And likewise, if a colleague's not available, then we'd need to use a reflective area in which the lights can be checked. And then we can just kneel down, we can actually see that there is sufficient gap between your two rear tyres, which signifies that there doesn't seem to be a problem with the inner tyre. So then we're coming to the opposite side of the vehicle now. And as we start making our way towards the doors again, as we've done with the other side of the vehicle, it's just a case of checking to make sure that all panels are secure, all reflectors and marker lights are working, making sure that the tyres, and particularly on your near side, these tyres do tend to take a bit more wear than your offside tyres. So paying particular attention to the sidewall, making sure there's no lumps, no cuts, no cord showing through your tyre, and again, just checking, making sure that your rick clips are secure and that there's none that's not interlocked, and that you're checking the hub to make sure that the hub is not leaking, and then making sure that all panels are secured down so that they're not going to be flapping about when we're driving about. And again, just making sure that all the emergency exits signposted up on the inside are also marked up on the outside. And then as we're making our way down, making sure that the 1-inch legal lettering for the vehicle is clearly displayed, and also it's unladen weight. As we come down to the final part of this outside check, making sure that side indicators are working and that the wallet tyre is not damaged and it's got sufficient tread depth. So I can check to make sure that there's no fraying in its seat belt and that it secures into its holder, and making sure that it's secure at all connection points. The cab area is only small. I'll need to be putting my bag in this area. Make sure that we've not got any areas what we can catch ourselves on in relation to the cash box. When the doors close, we are not banging into anything, as well as the ticket machine. And then we're also checking that the ticketer is securely fitted down, it's not likely to fall. Now we're built up with air pressure, I just want to check and make sure that the doors operate from inside the cab. And we can see that the doors are closing shut. Also checking the horn, and that we can make sure that the screen washer's working and the wipers are operational. It also gives me a chance to check that the right indicator and my left indicator are operating, and we can just see in the side mirrors that we can see that, as well as also checking on the outside earlier. Things to remember is everything working? Is there anything missing? Is there anything insecure? Is there anything that could cause a nuisance? Is there anything that could cause an injury? And finally, are you in proper control of the vehicle? And remember, any faults, always seek advice from an engineer before taking it any further.
Card will be issued to each vehicle at the start of the traffic day, irrespective of the status of the vehicle. This card must be displayed in the vehicle defect card holder at all times whilst in operation. The person carrying out the pre-service check will enter their name, wage number, route and duty number in the boxes provided at the top of the defect card, and also ensure that the correct depot, fleet number and date has been entered. Dedicated vehicle checkers should indicate in the duty column that they are the checker. For each check item on the list, enter a tick if no defect is apparent, a cross if a defect is noted, or mark NA if not applicable. This will clearly indicate that each area has been examined. Any defects must be recorded on the reverse, indicating the driver number in the first box, together with a clear indication of the defect or symptom in the second box. This card must then be placed in its holder. If no defects are present during the driver's time with the bus, the driver must enter none in the defect box on the reverse side of the card, adjacent to their driver number of the day. Subsequent drivers must add their name, wage number, duty and route number to the list on the front of the card. Any defects noted during their duty must be entered on the reverse side, indicating their driver number.